Merhaba, hello everyone. Ben Merve. Dizi kere dizide bugün Bir Başkadır'ı yabancı ismiyle Ethos'u konuşacağız. Geçtiğimiz ay yayına giren diziyi Berkun Oya yazdı ve yönetti. Çok konuşuldu, yayına girdiği günden beri herkes bahsetti, bir sürü kritik yazılar yazıldı. Ama hep biz bize konuştuk. Evet, Ferdi Özbey'in müzikleri, evet işte nostalji, aşina olduğumuz toplumsal kodlar. Ama acaba bunlara aşina olmayan yabancılar dizi hakkında ne düşündü diye merak ettiniz mi hiç? Ben edince arkadaşlarıma sordum bu diziyi izleyip benimle yayına çıkmak ister misiniz diye. Onlar da sağ olsunlar kabul ettiler. Ve buradayız. Sohbetimiz İngilizce olacak. En kısa zamanda Türkçe altyazıları eklemeye çalışacağım. O zaman başlayalım. Hello everyone and welcome again. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to have you here and so excited to hear your opinion about this show. Would you like to briefly introduce yourselves before we start?
Okay,
Who wants to go
start.
first? Go.
Hi everyone, my name is Jana. I'm 21 years old and I am Palestinian. I think that's about it.
Hi there, I'm Chiara. I live in Rome and I'm 26.
Merhabalar arkadaşlar, benim adım İrene. Ben İtalyanım, ben Roma'da yaşıyorum. Biraz Türkçe biliyorum ama bugün İngilizce daha iyi. I live in Rome and I'm a friend of Merv and I'm 43 years old.
Hello, my name is Simon. I'm from Germany, but I live in Rome, and I'm 38 years old. But I'm young in my Netflix history. This is actually only the second Netflix series that I'm watching, so I'm a newbie.
Yes, Simon is new in this, so he has a different viewpoint than us who are more experienced in this, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Could be.
So, Ethos. Let me start with asking you, what was the most striking element in the show for you? A character, an event, a relationship, cinematography, or maybe nothing at all? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the cinematography was, it was amazing. The videographer was like shot some really amazing scenes from so many different points of views. Also the color, where you can see like when the scenes were at Miriam's house, they were like blue, they were cold, they were not warm at all, for instance. But when you like change to a scene where we're at Sinan's house or the parents of Perry, it was like the colors were really warm. So I think that also has a meaning behind it.
Yeah, a secret message. And you, Chiara?
Well, I loved it. Like just to be sure of that. But I particularly liked the cinematography. It kind of reminded me a bit of Wes Anderson kind of cinematography, like the zoom, then the shots, and it was amazing to me. But I definitely enjoyed the psychology of the characters, which is at the beginning, it seems like to be very almost superficial, but basically starting from the half of the first episode, it really dives deep into the psychology of the characters. So I think that's absolutely wonderful how they did it.
Yeah, I agree. And you, Simon?
For me, very striking was the calmness, the tone, because it's very often you don't have any background sounds, you don't have any background music, you don't have any disturbing sounds. So the calmness of this was, I realized it maybe only after the first episode, but then it followed through all of them.
That's right.
How few sounds there are actually, and how concentrated it is on the actual happenings.
And we kept seeing Mariam taking long walks in a like deserted places, right?
Yes.
It was
Yes.
It was striking.
And also, I mean, there's nothing maybe happening in these walks, but even there is not even a sound. So it's totally calm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you, Irene, what was the most interesting thing for you?
Well, I agree with all of you, and I really love the atmosphere, especially when they show the rural areas of Turkey. I mean, it's really interesting also to see the contrast between the rural area and like a city. So even when the girl is going to the psychologist, I mean, there is a kind of prejudice at the beginning. I mean, from the psychologist's point of view, and it was a bit strange to me. I mean, because I mean, as a psychologist, she should, I mean, accept everybody and shouldn't have any prejudice. But in the end, it's very nice to see how it evolves and how she can accept and understand that actually everybody has the same feelings and, I mean, the same attitude to life. So I really love this. I mean, from the psychologist's point of view, actually.
Yeah, what you said, prejudice is the like the biggest message in this series. I think, like it was all based on the prejudice that different people from different social layers have against each other, and it tried to can we say resolve this, or moved into understanding each other. What did you think about this?
Yeah, actually, that at the beginning, I mean, the psychologist who came from another society, I mean, she met this girl who, I mean, is covered and she's more religious and she doesn't understand, I mean, why is she like that? But in the end, she understands that there are other things behind the veil of the girl. And she starts understanding her. So yeah, I think it's that one, because I don't know in Turkey how it works, but I suppose that in a big city like Istanbul, for example, people who live in areas like Dizi or more, let's say, Western style area of Istanbul, maybe they see people who live in a more like I wouldn't say like old-fashioned way, but in a more traditional way. They don't
conservative, maybe
conservative. Yeah, they maybe don't understand them really well, or they don't accept them very
They're
well.
like two different worlds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
They're like
exactly.
two different worlds. Exactly.
Yeah, it's two
Janet,
different worlds, almost different cities.
exactly. Janet, does this kind of like two different worlds or prejudice between like, I don't want to say castes, but it almost looks like a caste, no? Is that familiar for you? Have you ever seen that kind of a relationship before?
I mean, yeah, but I live in Nazareth, and like when you go to the center versus when you go like further away, it's like a whole different world. It's not like the same, you don't see the same buildings, you don't see the same people. It's like, yeah, it's really different. So
Yeah.
it's
What do you
like really
think?
interesting to see.
Yeah. And what about you, Chiara? Was that familiar for you, or?
In a certain way, but not in my direct experience, maybe. But as Irene was saying, maybe through the memories of maybe my parents when they were young, or maybe my grandparents. So to be so detached in the same city, let's say, but being very detached from the center and the outskirts, let's say. So I was thinking that, and there was a lot of times while I was watching the series in which I kind of had to remind myself that it was like a contemporary setting, especially for example, in Mariam's scenes and Yasin's scenes. For example, there is a scene in which Mariam is watching the TV series in which Melissa stars in. And I was like, oh my gosh, she has a television. Oh, right, that's a contemporary setting. So that was really like that kind of moment. And but I found it very poetic in a way. This this different vibe to it, and the differentiation between them.
I will get back to that, but I want to ask Simon the same question. Was that in any way familiar to you, this kind of prejudice?
Well, my feeling goes pretty much into the direction of what Chiara was saying. It is kind of familiar, but not that intense, like maybe it is in Turkey. Of course, also in Germany, of course, city life is different than life in small villages. And so it is a bit familiar, but not in that intensity. And of course, also myself, I live differently now that I live in a very big city like Rome than I have lived in my small town in Germany. But yeah, not to that extent, let's say.
Yeah, I understand. So, wait, what was I going to say about you? You thought that it was based in the past. Like it looks like 80s, 90s, especially when we watch Meryem's Family. I'm thinking it was probably on purpose because because how can I explain this? There had been a lot of immigration from the eastern sides of Turkey to big cities, especially to Istanbul, and just like Turkish people living in Germany. They immigrated, but the first generation found it very difficult to adapt to the city life. But then the next generations who grew up in the city are more adapted. But then sometimes we see them kind of living a bit differently. I think the purpose was to show that duality in the daily life.
Yeah, and I think they just manage really well to do that, like to express that kind of duality.
The message was very subtle, but still very clear, I think.
And I think that this duality is even more evident in other countries rather than Turkey. Like the contrast that I see is more evident, like for example in Germany or in the Netherlands, because I also lived in Germany for a while, and in Turkey was a bit different. I mean, so it's also very interesting because I think that Turkey somehow is unique from that point of view. Like, for example, you take the metro, you go to some places outside, in the outskirts, and it seems to be in a complete different country. Then you go to Galata, and it's like some places like to be like in Paris or Spain. It can be Madrid or whatever, whenever in Europe. So I don't know another city with such contrasts. A real bridge between the Western and the Eastern cultures.
I agree. Which is, we always say, it's the richness of the Turkish culture, but also sometimes the biggest problem. So what about the characters? Like, which one was the best and the worst for you? Or let's say unnecessary, for example. Who wants to go first? Simon, are you ready?
Quite.
Okay.
I'm thinking about especially who was unnecessary, and I think nobody was unnecessary there because he created this picture of the all very different characters. So, for example, maybe the actress didn't have that big part in the whole setting, but she represented a character that was very, very different from the thinking of all the others. And when I was thinking, with whom can I identify in all this series, with which character, I think it's a tendency that you have when you watch a series. It was very difficult for me in the beginning because the male characters are not very likable, at least not in the first episodes.
True.
So I clicked maybe very much with this actress, maybe also because from the culture where I'm coming from. So
which actress you were talking about, Meryem?
No, the one that I forgot the name. The one that is
Psychiatrist.
the one from the yoga studio.
Actress.
Yes.
Ah, yes. Sorry.
Mel.
I'm okay. I got you. Melissa, right?
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Melis.
It's interesting, but I kind of found that I identify with Melissa too. The others were just a bit too extreme for me, But identify is a good word because, the show was also criticized a lot and it was loved a lot. I mean, there are two different types of views. And the criticisms almost always said that there were only the, let's say, most extreme characters. Not everyone was represented, and which is true. But do they have to represent everyone?
No.
Not really.
I mean, if they talk about these people that met. So if these people met, leave out the ones that didn't appear in that story. So for me,
yeah, exactly.
and she seems to be a bit shallow, so you might think she's an unnecessary character, but I don't think so.
Yeah, even she brought a point to make Peri understand her stance. No?
Yeah, exactly. And also she said, okay, it's the rules. You shouldn't connect with your patients, but I mean, just for a moment, don't care for the rules and so on. I thought this was a very interesting, or for me also a viable point.
I agree.
Yeah, I think
Who?
every
Jana?
character was beneficial for the other character. It's like every character helped bring out something, some part in the other character. They all helped each other out in some way, even if they didn't meet.
So you found everyone was necessary.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, and who was your favorite?
I liked Yasin.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because in the first episode he had like this built up wall, but then it slowly came down. I think they all had this built up wall that slowly came down, and that showed their real problems. And yeah, I mean, in the last episode when I saw Yasin cry, it was just like it for me. It was really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's like he had to show this strong exterior, and he told his wife like, you shouldn't cry, you don't have to cry, but then he was the one to cry, and it was a really strong moment.
That's true. Well, you don't know Turkish men so well, but I would have said Yasin is kind of like a very typical guy in many senses, and especially around him, there's the wall that you were talking about is because they cannot communicate, right?
He always have to have like the upper hand because he's the male in the family.
Yeah,
and
true.
he lives with women, so he has to have like the upper hand. He has to make all the decisions, and yeah.
Yes,
I understand.
And what about you, Chiara?
Well, at the beginning, as I was saying earlier, I had the feeling that many of the characters were almost like some stereotypes, but eventually it kind of, I definitely changed my mind after the first episode, because they started like working on the psychology of the characters. But I really like Ruye as a character. It was a bit of a love and hate thing, but I think she's a very complex character, a very sad one, but also a very strong one, because she takes the courage to kind of face her demons and to go back to the village and so on. So at the beginning,
spoilers.
I was like, I was like, no, she's such a bad mother. But eventually, I ended up like really like the character.
Yeah, Ruhiye was really like, you cannot help but feel sad for her, because it's so obvious that she's sick, but they keep treating her like she's mad, and you're like, oh, take her to a psychiatrist.
Yeah, they're like, they're not giving her a chance.
Exactly, it's like mental illness is not as important to physical illness. They don't
Yeah.
treat it. They don't treat it as well as they treat like physical illness.
Unfortunately, that's a taboo in everywhere, no?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, it's still like a social stigma.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Irene?
Yeah, actually I think that all the characters were useful. I mean, in the series, and I'm sorry I don't remember the name, but I really like the character of the second psychologist. I mean,
Gublen.
Gublen, maybe.
Gülbin, yeah.
Gulbin, yeah, the one who had a bit crazy sister who got, I mean, who was
Yeah.
crazy on her. Yeah, I really liked her because I think she's a very strong character, and she tried to, I mean, she had to stay in between these two worlds. So on one hand, I mean, she had a traditional family, so like the sister and I suppose also the father and the mother, and she had to manage the situation with the sick brother, which is probably a taboo also in that family. I mean, it might be a taboo in some families, but on the other hand, also she tried to, I mean, to improve herself and to see, like, not to have prejudice anyway, without, I mean, against anybody. I think she's one of the best character. I think one of the, I mean, that I like.
That's so interesting because I thought I found her quite antipathetic.
Okay.
Not really.
Because especially because of one scene where Peri was having a mental breakdown. She was crying. She was having a catharsis, as the official term, scientific term. And then Gülbin calmly says, "Well, I think we should not continue seeing each other." I'm like, what? What? Is this the correct time to say this?
But I think that there was a time when she really couldn't manage. I mean, she couldn't stand bear her anymore. And somehow I could understand her because, I mean, the first psychologists were really racist, I think, sometimes. I mean, the way how she expressed her feeling about Mariam. I mean, it was horrible for a person who should be completely, I mean, open-minded in that sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So I liked how she somehow said, okay, you know what? I'm fed up. Okay. So
you're right, actually. And Gülbin has a comment about Peri, and she says, like, she's talking about these shamans in Peru and etc. But she is the one who has she complains about the girl having a wheel on her head, but she is the one who's walking around with a what is it called?
Yeah, it's like
with
Mariam
a bag
was
over
covering
her
head. Exactly.
Yeah.
It was like Mariam was covering her head, but Peri was covering like her mind, and it was really interesting. That sentence was.
Yeah, totally. And how about Sinan? Because he's one of the only four male characters, and he's like, I don't know, such a strange man. What would you think about him?
I kind of had some difficulties in understanding if it was like a positive character or a negative character, because it really seemed to me a very neutral one almost. Because at the beginning is a bit of a Latin lover and so on, but eventually he kind of disclosed some of his personal experience with the mother and so on. So I'm still not entirely sure what I think about him, because it was a bit neutral.
I agree. I think he was quite the personification of a modern man, like lost in the world, and he's only thinking about pleasures, but he's not satisfied.
Exactly.
Do you think so?
Yeah, he looked very confused.
But it's like he also like ran away from his old life with his mom and his dad. that's why he lives alone. And when he came back to visit his mom, he was like really depressed, and it shows like he was running away from something. He was hiding some feelings. Some things were just undone, some situations.
True. If there's ever a second season, we'll see maybe his story more and understand it. Well, given the popularity of the show, I'm sure there will be a second season. Let's hope.
Yeah. Also
hope so.
because it's always like it shows that behind the appearance there is always something else. I mean, even if he had the appearance of a successful, rich, handsome guy, actually inside he probably was sad because, I mean, he can have money, he can have whatever he wants, but maybe something that he really desired, he couldn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So
You're
there
right.
is always
Yes.
something behind the appearance of a person.
Exactly.
What did you think about Hoca and his family?
I was a bit surprised how much I could connect to the Hoxha, because in the beginning I was entering when they were saying when Miriam was sent to the Hoxha, you have to talk that you're seeing a psychiatrist. You have the feeling, okay, she will go there. He will say he's so conservative to say no, you absolutely cannot. And it turns out, or at least was my feeling, that maybe this was also a prejudice from my side, and he doesn't seem to be so conservative as you would think.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I was feeling the same at the beginning. I thought he would be some kind of like a cult leader or something. But in the end, he's just a normal person who wanted to follow his own dreams, right? At the end.
Exactly.
No.
And what about his daughter? Haydn Nisa. No one has an idea about her.
No, difficult.
We don't have any.
I didn't like her very much.
You didn't like her? Why not?
I don't know. She couldn't afford the reality. I mean, she didn't know exactly how to manage the situation. She escaped, and sometimes I think she behaved a bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
And also, yeah, her friend also was weird. I mean, in all the situations.
Yeah. What they are. Okay. Her friend was really, really strange. By the way, the actress who played that friend was my friend from the middle school. I was so shocked to see her.
No.
Did you find anything strange between their relationship between Haydn Nisa and the girl who was called Burcu? I think I don't remember her name.
I think
Yeah, I
they were
think
more
they-
than just friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very
Yeah, I
subtly
mean, they didn't have like
hinted.
exactly. They didn't have like a normal relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I
And,
don't know. I feel like there was a bit more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just like how Gülbin is stuck in between two worlds of his traditional family and her modern educated lifestyle, I think Haydn Nisa is the same. Like she is the daughter of a Hoca, and she is supposed to wear a headscarf, but she doesn't want to. She wants to, I don't know, like maybe become a DJ or go to rave parties, have a different lifestyle.
Yeah, and you're probably much more under the spotlight when you are the daughter of a Hoxha. I mean,
A
let
lot.
alone that, okay, you decide not to wear a headscarf and to live a different lifestyle, but okay, you have the pressure from the parents, from the family, but all the people around too. So. And she's much younger than Gülbin, so
Yeah,
of
very,
course
very
it's
younger.
much more difficult for her.
Yeah, I think it's very well highlighted, the fact of characters, like the singularity and the individuality of the character versus the family and the social context around the said character. And because, for example, we have Perry, who is like she's a super genius, and she goes to America, and she has a very progressive family, but nonetheless, she is still, let's say, acquiring her parents' point of views on headscarf and everything. And at the same time, for example, we have a very pretty much the same. She still has psychology, for example, Goldbin, but she has a completely conservative family. So I really like this dichotomy between the same job but different families, and how they actually approach the patients according to that. So yeah, Goldbin was, let's say, less critical towards her patients. So
thanks to her upbringing.
Yeah.
But we also kind of understand that she was probably like, her family is Kurdish.
Right,
they had to leave their village because they couldn't live there anymore. So also, as you know, this is a huge problem in Turkey. We still could not find a middle way. We cannot communicate, let's say, on this subject very well. So apparently Gülbin is more, how can we say this? She was in protesting against this. And on the contrary, her elder sister, she is rich. Actually, she's a new rich, because she became rich in the last 10, 15 years, just like typical Erdogan supporter. In every way she behaves. So that's why they cannot, also politically, they cannot communicate very well, and they keep fighting. And we didn't talk about Meryem.
Fair point.
She is the girl.
She's very genuine. I mean, she's really genuine person.
Mm-hmm.
And she never, even she couldn't understand how, for example, this psychologist treated her. I mean, she was very innocent all the time from the very beginning. She didn't understand that actually she had a prejudice towards her.
She's so pure. It's like the name itself, Maryam, is like Virgin Mary, which is like pure. I think the name, like the director named her Maryam, like it's not a coincidence, because she's really pure. She doesn't understand what's going on, like if like the doctor is deceiving her or not. If she just thinks that they're having a regular conversation, and like she's becoming her friend. But then when Perry says, like, of course that's my job, then she's
taken aback.
Exactly. It's really her job. Like, she's not my friend.
But at the same time, Meryem is quite smart. Like, sometimes she gets, for example, there's one scene that has become quite popular. She says, "Oh, so you talk and talk and finally get to the same point to make me talk about this." You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So she understands when she's being played. Well, I wouldn't call it played, but yeah, I couldn't find any better word. Okay, who else? Or maybe let me ask you, how did this show change your opinion about Turkey? What were you expecting, and was it any different to what you were expecting, or was it just like you were thinking how it would be?
Good question.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a big question. Let's take notes.
That's a tough one.
See you in 5 minutes.
I think more or less it's like I thought before. My experience, because I went to Turkey so many times, and I lived in Istanbul as well for a short time. So it's something that actually, yeah, I thought it was like that.
Okay. So it didn't surprise you?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm
else?
I'm the opposite on the opposite side of Irene because I've never been to Turkey. I would love to visit even more after the show. But yeah, I was honestly a bit surprised about the strong differentiation between the metropolis and the outskirts. I mean, I knew it was like that, but I didn't I didn't realize it was at this extent.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was definitely surprised by that.
I have never been to Turkey, so my knowledge about Turkish culture and Turkish people is mostly from Germany. So we have a big Turkish community, and already there you see that there is more conservative, more religious people, and also, let's say, very Western people. And but what changed a bit when I watched this series is that how you realize that a person is not, only Western, only conservative, only religious, but how much inside of them they have maybe an upbringing that was from the one direction and they decided to live differently. So they have all these elements. And on top, of course, if they live in Turkey and Istanbul, they live also in a city, in a world where they have all these different influences. And that was made me a bit thinking. I didn't perceive this so much about Turkey so far, because obviously when you live in Germany, you live in the Western world. You don't have these strong influences from Islam or from these very, very conservative upbringings.
Yep. Jana?
Personally, I was not that surprised. I've never been to Turkey, but I think the Turkish culture is a lot similar to the Arab culture. And I think at some point, like these things, I didn't like live these situations, but I saw similar situations that happened around me. But what struck me the most is like the whole show was like in the same country, same city, same like social circle, but all of them had like different lives. Like, and that was really interesting to me.
Yeah. 10, 12 people living in the same city, but 10, 12 different lifestyles.
And at some point they all met.
Yeah. It's like we see characters coming up and then all of a sudden they become a circle. They are connected to each other in some way. That was pretty interesting to see. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I really liked how the interconnection between the characters, because it's totally unexpected, and I think that it's a good way to remember those links, because they kind of give you like a little shock in the moment. So it's like, oh my god, so that's how they are connected. And I find it really like they did this in a very elegant way. I think it wasn't banal at all.
Yeah. So Marianne started to go to the psychiatrist because she was having like a fainting. She kept fainting a few times. And why do you think? Obviously, it wasn't pathological. It was something else. So why do you think it happened, and how was it resolved until she found the box and then fainted again after a year?
I think when she's too excited about something, maybe she had this problem. So it's more correlated to something like personal. Like maybe she loved that guy at the beginning. I mean, the owner of the house where she went there to clean.
Yeah,
Sinan. And so every time, I mean, she had a kind of big emotion. So maybe these big emotions created in her something like fainting, or I don't know.
Exactly. She bottled up too many emotions, I think, whether they were negative or positive. They were all bottled up, which resulted in her fainting. But when she started talking about them and talking to anyone else, expressing herself, then it stopped. The fainting stopped.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even if like it can even be said, if we stretch it a bit, that she was buckling under the pressure of patriarchy, no, of his like the pressure
Yes.
of his brother and what the people will say, that she cannot express what she feels. She wants to live a life like the TV show she watches, but she cannot.
And maybe that only, she gets aware of this when she goes working cleaning at Sinan's place, because if you grow up like this, you don't know anything else. Your older brother always told you what to do. Maybe you just accept this to a certain point as being the normality, but then you go to other places, you would see other things, and maybe also that starts this
Yeah.
process in you.
You see that there's a different world outside.
Exactly.
And I was also thinking about the fact that Marian is also extremely generous. She really she helps her sister-in-law. She helps with the house. She helps with the children in the house, and it seemed to me like she wasn't used to talk about herself and to live her own life, but she was like living her life in the shadow of the people around her. And so I think that the help of the psychiatrist that was actually just a way to let her understand that she had to live her own life without being, let's say, under someone else's shadow.
And there's never thank you. So she does everything. She does everything
Right.
for
Yeah.
everybody. So I was really following the reactions of the brother, and I was waiting. Come on, at least one time. Now you're in a good mood. Say thank you. Of course, you couldn't expect it from the sister-in-law, because she's really in the first
Obvious
episodes.
reasons,
Yeah.
But not even from the psychiatrist when she brings the burek, and you expect some thank you, and I say, I cannot accept that. So.
And you see, Marianne doesn't even expect that, because
Yes.
she's never been thanked. She's never been
used to it.
appreciated.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so sad, and it's unfortunately a huge truth regarding women. I was going to say something else. What did you feel when Ruhiye went to her village to face her demons, as Chiara expressed in a very classy way? What did you think?
I felt sorry for the woman who got married with the demon.
Yeah, with the demon. That's right, and unfortunately, that's a common thing too, which is horrible, but it happens.
Yeah, I felt like I feel that they're very sad characters. I mean, in the movie and in their life, and I mean, they just decided to stay together because they didn't have any other options. So it was a bit sad to see this situation.
Were you surprised to see that Yasin went to the village and beat the guy?
Not really.
No. That's totally his
Not really.
character.
That's true.
I mean, it was
Totally in his
also like
character.
a former military, so I was expecting that even more. In that, but in general, I found like the talk between Ruye and the guy extremely
Yasin.
powerful. No, Yasin.
The demon.
Demon, yeah. It was like extremely powerful, especially when she said, he says like, yeah, we were kids, blah, blah, blah. And she said like, we were kids, you weren't. And
Yeah.
that like struck me.
And she
so
just moves
much
on.
because- yeah,
Yeah, and
exactly.
just walks away in the end. I mean, she could have done whatever with him.
Exactly.
and
that was
she's
probably one
healed.
of the strongest scenes.
Yeah, exactly. It was very, and
That
also
was so
very
brave of her.
picturesque. They were,
Exactly.
sorry?
That was so brave of her. And to think that, like, why didn't she go back to the village before?
Mhm.
Like, all this time she spent like 10 years depressed. But then after
Yeah.
10 years, she thought to herself, like, that's it. I have to go there. I have to like face the fear or the trauma
Yeah.
because I want to come back to my family. She feels like she lost herself, her family. She doesn't have a life anymore when she's depressed.
Yeah.
So that was a brave thing to do.
Brave and not an easy conclusion to arrive to. Like, you're suffering, you cannot get out of the bed, and you don't know what to do. You're lost. And it's cool that she finally get to that solution.
Yeah,
Yes.
nobody can understand. I mean, nobody could understand her. I mean,
Mhm.
even Mariam. I mean, she's very nice and everything, but even she couldn't understand her. So I was very surprised. Like there was a scene when she started crying, and Mariam came and she said, "You know what? Now I understand my brother. I mean, I'm sorry for my brother." I said, "How can she think something like that?" I mean, it's evident that the brother is so like
Close-minded?
close-minded. Yes, the right word.
Because
Yeah.
they only have sympathy for her. They didn't go through what she went through. So it's
Exactly.
like, yeah, poor her, and that's it. They expected her to like just forget about it and change, but it's not that easy.
True. Okay, as a last note, I want to ask you. Okay, I already asked you how it changed or how it surprised your views about Turkey, but I'm sure you've heard it many times before about Turkey in the media, in everywhere. That Turkey is a mix of East and West, secularism, conservatives, religion, and Westernism, etc. After watching the show, did you was it a bit more clear for you this duality in the culture?
For me, yes, and as I said before, for me it became even more clear that this duality is not only in the culture but within one person only. So it's clear that in the culture you have the ones that are more on this side and more on that side, but you have these elements in every person that became more clear to me.
Perfect.
Exactly. It's not like not all families are the same, and the family members are all different. Like even if it's a conservative family, it doesn't mean like that all of the members are conservative. Like the Hoja and his daughter. His daughter is not that conservative, as I understood.
Yeah. And even though, like, Pidi and her family, they are secular and supposed to be more open-minded, but they are also conservative. They are trying to conserve something. So, yeah.
I think the movie can help to understand this, but you really need to go to Turkey to understand this. I mean,
Yes, we are waiting for all of you in Turkey. After the pandemic, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
yeah, I miss it so much. I love Turkey.
Okay. Chiara, would you like to say something or just as last words?
Yeah, just a consideration about the the generation gap between the parents, the children, and so on, because it's usually like a big problem in every culture. But I feel like it's even more strong or maybe heavy in some way in a more conservative environment. Because of course maybe there is the willing of the youngest to put themselves into a less conservative society, but there is always this kind of blame and sense of guilt in doing so. So I really I think that the series really highlights very well this thing, the sense of guilt due to religion, due to a very conservative, the pressure, exactly.
Yeah.
I would like to suggest a movie which I've seen on, I think on Netflix, but I think 1 year ago, is Mucize, Miracle. And it's very beautiful. I think to understand also Turkish culture, let's say, it also that movie is very intense and very beautiful to see.
It is, I think Mucize is written by Berkun, by the same person. Am I mistaken?
I don't know.
I might be mistaken, but yeah, I'll let you know.
I have problems with the names.
Okay. Anything else you would like to add?
Maybe also a suggestion from me, because I started to watch the first episode in German, and then I was a bit the dubbing is not the best, so the synchronizing. So I watched the rest
dubbing.
of the episodes. I watched the rest of the episodes in Turkish with subtitles, and it's completely different. So if you don't get enough of it, if you want to rewatch it, maybe do this.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Well, no, because it's the feeling is completely different. Not completely different, but has other layers.
Yeah.
No. So how the brother, for example, shouts very differently even in Turkish. That's really
No, I need to check the dubbing.
It's more intense, let's say.
Interesting. Now I need to check the dubbing. Okay. One of our audio viewers says, "Are you planning to do same concept for some other series or movies?" Well, why not? Would you be interested in, dear friends?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's great.
I've watched one. It's called Innocent. The Innocent.
Yeah.
Masum. Masum. So beautiful. I love that as well.
Okay, that's great. Okay, that might be the next one. Let's take notes.
Yeah, we're writing down the title then.
Yeah. Is that all? Anything else you would like to add? Okay, perfect. Guys, thank you so much. It was a great pleasure to have you and to talk to you about this. And I really appreciate all your opinions. Well, we're going to be famous.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a nice evening.
You too.
You too.
Thank you.
İyi akşamlar.
İyi akşamlar.
İyi akşamlar.
Bye bye.
Bye.